Now that it's finally time to start double crocheting, because we've gone over all of the terminology and the different materials that you will need, we will go through the different parts of the hook. I have mine right in my hand, and then I will show you how to start your foundation chain in your chain stitches. So the hook has a few different parts. One is the handle. My handle, I don't know if you can really see that well, it says a 9mm, it'll tell you the size. They come by sizes, both numbers and letters. This is an N needle. This is kind of the best size I like to use. It gives me a clean stitch and also the tightness that I want when making my blankets or my scarf. We have two different skeins. I'm using red and blue for mine. I would prefer it to be in a ball, but for sake of time, I'm going to just start off stitching right from the skeins. I've shown you the video of how to turn it into a ball, which is preferable. For double crochet, you're going to use 2 threads at the same time. So to start off, we're going to want to knot them together. You can start by just creating a simple knot, twisting it around your finger, slipping it through. If you want to create a slip knot instead, you could do that as well. A simple knot like this will work very well. Make the knot really tight, as small as you can get as well. It'll make it easier for when you want to weave in your ends. So, our needle, we have the handle, you have the hook at the top. Right near the top of the hook is where we're going to want to start, but first, separate your 2 threads, 2 fingers with the threads around the outside, flip it over so that we have a loop to put our hook through, and pull tight. That's how we're going to start. It doesn't need to be super tight, it still needs to be able to slide around a little bit, but it's going to be a little bit tight. So you're going to want your knot on the right hand side, the strings to the left hand side. I like to sit with my skeins or my ball sitting on the left hand side of me because we're going to stitch from right to left. Makes it a little bit easier if you're pulling your yarn from the left hand side instead of the right hand side. So for your first stitch, I'm going to get as close as I can here. You're going to pull your hook, 1 finger on the top, put it around, using your left hand. Just pull where that knot was a little bit and slide the hook through. So we're going to have 1 stitch. So that is a chain stitch. That is the simplest stitch there is. That's the type of stitch you're going to be using for all of double crocheting. In order to make that foundation chain that I showed you and you read about in the key terms and the vocabulary, you're going to do several chain stitches. We're going to do about 15 for right now, just to show you what length and width it would be, and then I'll talk about the different widths. So again, you have your first one, finger on top, yarn around the hook, pull it with the hook through the hole. Should come through kind of easily. You can pull them tighter if you want shorter chain stitches or leave it loose. It's a little bit easier to leave it loose. And then you're just going to do the same thing over and over, counting until you have 15. Sometimes when you're doing this part, it'll start to twirl a little bit on you. That might mean that you have pulled your stitches too tight. That's okay. Eventually they will straighten out. The more rows you add onto your scarf or to your blanket, the straighter they will get. You can see mine's even starting to curve a little bit, but that'll straighten out when we start working with it a little bit further. So that's about 15. You can see this length is probably about 8 inches or so. That would probably be a good length for a scarf. If you like your scarf thicker, skinnier, smaller, it's really up to you. A blanket I'm doing right now, which I'll show you in a little bit, is about a queen size, between a full and a queen size blanket, and that's 150 chain stitches to make my foundation chain. If you want to make a twin size blanket, you're going to want to be right around 100 stitches for your foundation stitch. Scarves, you can do smaller, larger. If you want smaller blankets, you can kind of do your foundation chain until you think you have the width that you want. The length will be with your rows that you're doing. Our next part, we're going to do something called a turning chain. There's 2 different times you do a turning chain. One is to go from your foundation stitch to your first row. The second time is to go from the end of a row to another row. I'm going to show you both ways. This first way